Welcome into lesson 34. Today we are talking about perfect and diminished intervals. So at the end of this lesson, we'll talk about how diminished intervals relate to the larger context of minor and major intervals. But for the bulk of this lesson, it's just how they compare to perfect intervals. So if we remember back to our perfect interval lesson, perfect intervals are perfect 1, perfect 4, perfect 5, and perfect eighths. Okay, so let's write these out. Let's do this in the key of F. So perfect unison will be F to F. Perfect fourth will be F to B flat. Perfect fifth will be F to C. And a perfect octave will be F to F. Now, if we want to take these intervals and turn them into diminished intervals, so the same way that major and minor work together, that's a major interval is a half step larger than a minor interval. A diminished interval is a half step smaller than a perfect interval. So perfect intervals, because they're really stable, they're not major or minor. We can't call a perfect interval a major or a minor fourth. It's either perfect or diminished or augmented, as we'll talk about in our next lesson. So if we're taking this perfect fourth, we have a P4 here, but we want to turn this into a diminished fourth. Another way to write that will be a little circle, diminished 4. We're going to lower that top note by a half step. So F, B flat. So that B flat becomes, holy smokes, B double flat. Now, that looks a little crazy, and typically you won't see that, but that is how that works. Again, the diminished fifth is going to be F to C flat. Now it still has to be F, G, A, B, C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it still has to be some type of C, whether that's a C flat, a C sharp, or maybe a C natural as we have for our perfect fifth. And then same thing with our F to F. So our diminished octave, F to F flat up top. So we're just taking that a half step smaller. So that was by taking the top note and lowering it a half step. The other way we can do that, as we've discussed in our minor intervals, is taking that bottom note and turning that a half step larger. So we'll stay on our F. So F to F is our perfect octave. We'll keep the top F the same, and this bottom F is going to go up a half step to F sharp, and now that becomes our diminished eighth or dim 8. Okay? All right, so referencing this into major, minor, and diminished intervals and how these all relate to each other. Let's take a look. So we're going to go back to our key of C, and we're going to take our C to B natural, which, if we think about that, that's going to be our major seventh. And if we want to lower that by a half step, so we're going to keep moving in this direction, lowering by half steps. So we're going to take the top note down to a B flat. So now this becomes a minor seventh. And if we want to take that down a half step even more, B double flat, that becomes a diminished seventh. It's a way of contracting our intervals into smaller and smaller increments. So major, minor, diminished. And we can also do this on our next lesson, talking about augmented intervals, so making them larger.